the objective of prospecting, okay, is not to sell a property, get a listing, set an appointment, etc. Your job is to get your prospect to just open up to you to tell you what they want to do. Whether it be today, next month, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Like, tell me your real estate plans so that I can help you accomplish those goals. That's all I need. I don't care when. What we think in terms of rejection, objections, scarcity, strategy, etc., is just not true. And it was evidence that in Vegas, no one raised their hand and said, I want to be a real estate agent forever. I think agents are in the same mindset, and I think it's ironic that most agents aren't even clear on where they're trying to end up. They don't have any kind of plan of really where they're going, what they're trying to do.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rise Above the Ranks, brought to you by Estate Media. I'm James Harris. I'm here with my co-host David, and today we are thrilled to have a very, very special guest joining us, none other than Ricky Carruth. Ricky is one of the most respected real estate coaches in the industry. He's a best-selling author and a highly, highly sought-after speaker. He's not only built a thriving real estate business, but also has a brand focused on helping agents succeed by putting relationships over transactions. We talk about it all the time, but from his coaching program to his popular YouTube channel, Ricky's insights have guided countless agents through the crazy ups and downs of the market. Ricky, thank you for joining us. We're excited to dive into everything with you today. We're excited to have you on the podcast. Why don't we start where you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in this crazy industry?
Yeah, good to be here. I don't know who wrote that bio, but they did a heck of that. Was probably the best one I've ever heard.
He wasn't reading anything, Ricky. That was just
the truth, my man. It's all the truth. It is.
That was incredible. No, good to see you fellas. Now I'm down here in the beautiful white sandy beaches of Alabama. A lot of people don't know about us down here, but we're right. Florida comes right into Alabama, a good 40 miles. And grew up here, small town, literally like in Gulf Shores where I live, it's 15,000 population, right? But we have 7 to 8 million visitors every year. So that's actually more than Hawaii. So it's a huge tourist spot. And I grew up, actually, my dad had a roofing business, and I grew up roofing houses with him. And I knew I didn't want to do that forever. So I went to college. I went to 4 different colleges in 2 years, failed a history class at University of Alabama. And I was like, this is not me. So I immediately went to Shelton State, took the pre-license class, and still didn't know if I wanted to do real estate. I came back home. I roofed houses for 3 days. I was like, I'm gonna do real estate. So I went and took the test and got my license. And honestly, the first thought was, let me help first-time home buyers, So I helped about 2 first-time home buyers, and I was like, I never want to talk to another first-time home buyer ever again. And then I got into condos, selling Gulffront condos right on the beach. And it was beautiful. I did that for 20 years. And I rode the market up because this was 2002 and 3 when I got in the business. So I rode the market up, lost everything on the way down, went back to roofing, worked on the oil rig, came back in 2008. And that's when I just started crushing it. Because after I lost everything, I realized everything I did wrong the first time around, which in a nutshell was I would do a deal. The seller would make hundreds of thousands on something they bought last year, and I would never talk to them again. They didn't want to buy anything else. They just made 300 grand. They're not going to turn right around and buy something at those prices. So they took their money and ran, and I didn't need to talk to them because I could call 10 more people, find somebody that wanted to make 300K. I would make 20, 30, 40K and do that over and over and over again. So it was a very deceptive market, especially if you were new. You just kind of thought, oh, this is how real estate's done. And when it crashed, you didn't have anything to fall back on. So I realized it was about people. I came back and just crushed it. I eventually became the number one Remax agent in Alabama. I held that for a while. I was the number one agent in my entire MLS out of all brokerages and agents for 8 years in a row. I was doing 100 deals a year for 8 years in a row as just a single agent. I had one assistant. So I was doing all the, showings, listing appointments, closings, inspections. I was doing all that stuff. And yeah, so that kind of led me to writing some books and kind of sharing the story and stuff. And so now we are where we are. I haven't sold a listing in a couple years. I've been just continuing to build a brand and help agents. And we go through stages. I actually spoke in Vegas Friday at BAM Mania, and I didn't really know I was going to ask this question. And you guys can probably relate to this, but somewhere in the middle of my speech, I said, how many of you guys actually want to be a real estate agent forever? Right? There's 500 agents in the room, right? Not a single hand went up. I said, wait a minute. You guys are real estate agents. You're here to learn how to sell real estate, but nobody here wants to be a real estate agent. it was very eye-opening. Of course, I knew it was going to be the majority, but to have no hands go up. So we're in this industry that literally no one really wants to be in long term, right? And so I was the same way. Once I got to $1 million a year, I was like, I got to get out of here somehow. Like, this was the dream to make $1 million a year, but once you get there, you guys know, you guys are making podcasts, building your brands, doing other things. You got to branch out and continue to expand and look for bigger markets. I crushed the local market. I got to go find a bigger market. So that was real estate agents. Now I feel like I've kind of dominated that market. Now I'm looking to get into even a bigger market. So I'm just addicted to challenging myself.
God, I just love everything you just said. Firstly, you started with, you lost everything. When you lose everything, you have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. So you came back with a vengeance and became the number one agent for 8 years in a row, which tells me, like, there's certain people in this industry, if you really want something bad enough, you'll go get it.
I said, if you want to be that, I said, how many people want to be number one in their market? Yeah. I said, you better have a chip on your shoulder of some sort or you won't make it. It's too hard to get there. But what's interesting about that is when I was in my mid-20s, I made $1 million and lost it. And I went bankrupt. So I was negative. And there were guys and girls that were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that were going through the same thing I was going through.
Yeah.
And I had the foresight in my mid-20s to look at that, because most people are like, were you depressed? Did it hurt? Were you sad? I was like, no. And I honestly wasn't, because I was still young enough to go do manual labor and stuff. But I looked at the situation. I was like, I'm in my 20s and these people are starting over in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah. And I'm going to learn all the lessons they're learning at 60. And I know this is where, it may take a while, but this is going to be a hugely positive situation for me. So I was just riding it out and trying to learn lessons along the way. But it was interesting because it was really fascinating to watch some of those guys. And I looked up to them. They were like heroes of mine. To lose everything, it was it was a time.
I don't look at it as though you lost $1 million. I look at it as though you paid $1 million to get the biggest lesson of your life and the best experience of your life. And like you said, I think that was really well said, that you were young. You bought that experience at a really young age where you could rebuild, and that's very commendable. I have a quick question. What made you, when you were making $1 million a year and being the top agent in your market, what made you just completely shift away from sales completely when you were established at that point? Just out of interest.
So in 2017, I started writing the books and speaking and creating content. I didn't use social media at all to build my real estate business. And in 2017, that was the first year I made $1 million as an agent. And I made $1 million for 5 more years, like $1 million to $2 million, somewhere in there, for 5 years in a row. And I had hired a couple of coaches along the way temporarily just to see if there was something I was missing. And like, there's a lot of coaches, like they've been in the business for 2 years. They sold 19 properties and they're selling courses for $500. So I come in, I come in, I make a mill, I lose it, or I invest it in my future. I turn around after a couple years, get back in, and from '08 to 14, that was kind of my rise back. 14 was the year I hit number one in the state and in my MLS, and that was kind of like I had made it back to the top. That was 6 years, right? So I make it, lose it, come back. 6 years of grinding to get to the top. Then I do 100 deals a year for 3 years in a row before I even have any kind of audacity to try to teach someone something. So I just felt like after going through all that, I had something to share. And honestly, I was trying to write a book, and Remax asked me to speak in Biloxi, Mississippi at their annual Tech and Touch or whatever it was called. And it was my very first talk. And they had me speak last. And it's an 8-hour day. I never wear a suit. I was wearing a suit. I was like sniffly and sick, nervous. And after that talk, and there were some great agents that spoke that day. And after that talk, like they would speak and come off stage and just walk away. And it was just like they're a normal person again. When I got through talking that day, there was a line, around the corner of the hallway of agents that were like, wow, that inspired me, or they had a question or whatever. And that was the moment for me that I thought, I have something here. Like I've got something. I don't know what it is. And that moment kind of made me really go all in with, okay, I have to do this because people need this. But to answer your question, that first year I made a meal, like when December 31st hits and then January 1st clicks over and what you made for the year goes from that 1.2 or whatever it is to zero.
Yeah.
And now you're looking up this mountain. You just climbed this $1 million mountain, and now you just got through back to the bottom. You're like, I don't know if I can climb that thing. Like, I don't know how this is going to pan out over the next 12 months. And you start to realize, like, yeah, you're 1099, but it's still a job, and it might be a high paying job, but you're still trading time for money. And it just clicked. That was like, okay, this isn't the thing. Wealthy people, they look at money differently. They don't trade time for money. They create, passive money through investments, etc. But they also, for the most part, a lot of wealthy people, they trade their intellect, they trade their ideas, they create things, and they trade that for money. So when you come from a place where you're not trading time for money, people that trade time for money, when they make a decision to spend money, it's like a life decision because they literally traded their life. They traded time, which is finite, for something that's infinite, money, to buy something. And they're like, this is a big decision. Wealthy people that didn't trade time for money, everything basically costs the same. Everything costs as much as, a book.
BoldTrail's cutting-edge tools provide everything you need all in one place. And just for our listeners, we really do have an incredible promo that will be sure to get you ahead for Q4. Go to boldtrail.com/blueprint to receive $3,000 off when you sign up. That's an unbelievable offer, only available for all of you. We'd recommend jumping on that now. Go ahead and use the promo code Blueprint. That's boldtrail.com/blueprint.
And so when I hit that million, I realized a lot because I was working. It was a rat race, and I was like, I got to do something. But honestly, it wasn't challenging anymore either. So it was kind of like, I forgot about this. I actually, a while back when I was in a fresher mind state with this, you're kind of bringing this to my mind again. I was kind of bored. It was like I conquered that mountain, and as rat racy as it is, I was like, I got to go do something else bigger. I got to go bigger here, number one. But number two, I got to get out of this. And it was evidence that in Vegas, no one raised their hand and said, I want to be a real estate agent forever. I think agents are in the same mindset. And I think it's ironic that most agents aren't even clear on where they're trying to end up. They don't have any kind of plan of really where they're going, what they're trying to do, and what they're going to do afterwards, etc. So I'm trying to bring this to the forefront a little bit to challenge agents to actually think about these things.
We know who you are, obviously, and we follow you, everything you do, and it's incredible. And just for the audience who maybe don't, that we're introducing you to, what do you know, as far as being the real estate coach, what is your angles? What are your focus, and how does it work? Bit of background, if you don't mind.
As far as like what the strategy is that I teach agents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I look at every single lead gen activity, it all comes back to the same KPI, right? Key performance indicator. So when I look at any lead gen, for me, the main thing I'm looking at is how many conversations is it creating? Because what I realized pretty early in my career is that conversation is kind of the gatekeeper, right? It's crazy how many agents, like real estate's predicated on you talking to people that you do and don't know to help them buy and sell real estate. Just that's in a nutshell. You have to talk to people you do and don't know to help them buy and sell real estate. And most agents, especially nowadays with all the shiny penny lead gen things out there, they want to avoid that first part, talk to people. And so the only thing between them and their goals, honestly, the only thing between them and their goals are thousands of one-on-one conversations with people in their market. So you can spread those one-on-one conversations out over the course of the rest of their life and never even get to their goals, which is what a lot of agents do. Or you can cram those thousands of conversations into a 3 to 5 year period, get to your goal now, because they're not promised tomorrow, and go ahead and move on past, get to your goal, hit it, and look for your exit, because let's face it, none of us want to be a real estate agent forever.
And do you kind of like in your coaching, because it's real estate, to real estate agents, I assume, right? Mainly, which I know because I follow you. Your guidance is basically to get them to their best version of being a realtor in order to exit the industry and do something else. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, kind of. Like the exit the industry thing is kind of an extension of kind of, that's just like to put a bug in their ear to start thinking about it. But it's going to take 5 or 10 years to conquer the real estate mountain, to get to hit your goals and get to a good place, have enough money to invest in other things, or have time to invest in other businesses, etc. So you still got a long way to go before you're starting to think about exiting, but you do need to start thinking about it. No. So what I was getting at is that you can't get around the conversation. So agents spend so much time, money, and energy on things to try to avoid conversation, just to turn right around and talk to the people that they spend all the time, money, and energy to get. Right? And in today's world, you can literally see, like, if you look at Zillow and Facebook and YouTube and open houses, even, etc. What you're doing is you're spending a lot of time, money, and energy to try to get into conversations with people. All right. And you have no control over how many leads you're going to get, what they're going to cost, or what the quality of those leads are. So you have no control over how many, the quality, or the cost. But if you realize that conversations are the key to everything, right? And building those relationships, creating great first impressions, nurturing them until they want to do something, solidifying yourself as their pick when they decide to buy or sell something. If you realize that that's the game, and the only way to have a large volume of inventory of listings is to first create a high level of trust with a large volume of property owners, then if you really digest this stuff and you really meditate, you really get deep with it, you start to realize it's like, well, why don't I? Because you can literally get any property owner you want's contact information for a penny. So it's like, okay, you're making YouTube videos, you're getting more buyers than sellers, number one, but you're making YouTube videos or Facebook videos or paying Zillow, whatever the case may be. Like, I already talked to the person you're trying to get to. I talked to them years ago, months ago, weeks ago. I already talked to them before they saw your stuff. I've already created a relationship, and we're already under contract. Like, I've already solidified this. I'm 3 steps ahead of you because the conversation. See, most agents start in the sales funnel with this stuff to get to the conversation. I started the conversation. Right. So I'm already starting ahead of all the competition. This is why my business grew faster than everyone, because I understood this. It's like they get Zillow leads and YouTube leads and stuff like that and they get mostly buyers when they do that, which is a very inefficient way to build your business. And I'm like, okay, well, you're doing that because you don't want to get rejected when you call property. I said, have any of these buyers ever rejected you, or they ever mean to you? They're like, yeah, all the time. What? You can't get around this stuff. Why aren't you cramming thousands of conversations with the right people that you can get for a penny, the exact people you want to do business with? You control how much, how many, what the quality is, and you can actually build an empire within 3 to 5 years versus never, right?
Yeah.
So I
But
could go on all day about this.
But you're speaking so much truth. And for all of those listening, I mean, I'm getting so many takeaways from everything you're saying. I think the first thing I'm hearing is there are so many agents out there that want to ask a million questions instead of just going out and doing the work. The amount of people that we've had come to us and talk to us about door knocking. And it's like they want to put all this research and they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to ask 500 questions. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, have you been door knocking? No, I'm getting ready. It's like, just get out there and go, right?
What I like to say is these people, right, these agents, if they would spend literally
Correct.
less than half of the time and effort they spend trying not to do the thing,
Yeah.
less than half, and just do the thing,
Yeah.
you would be crushing it, right?
Correct.
But people are scared, man. They're scared to talk to people.
Yeah, and they let fear stand in the way of their success. So they'd rather sit in their own fear and let the fear become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger instead of just actually leaning on having some faith in themselves and getting out there and doing it. And I also love what you're talking about with agents that think bigger. They don't want to say they'll be doing this forever because, to be honest, in life in general, the moment you are comfortable in your business is the moment you need to get uncomfortable. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're at a plateau. And if you're at a plateau, you're going to have a very mediocre life. And for some people, mediocre is absolutely fine and they're very comfortable with that. But I believe a lot of those in this industry that are 1099 and we are independent contractors and we do start at zero Jan 1 every single year, you've got to have that mindset of growth and being able to build. And once you've built this solid business, what's next? How are you creating reoccurring income? What are you working on? Is it a book? Is it a course? Doesn't matter. What are you doing? So my next question for you, Ricky, is what advice do you have for those real estate agents that are struggling with the fear of rejection or failure? How do they overcome that? What do they do? And what do you advise?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that rejections and objections are not what they seem, right? Their definition of objections and rejection is not reality. What those things are in reality, okay? Rejections and objections are your prospect telling you what they want to do. Right? We got to quit thinking about it like this is them, forcing you down, or this is a negative thing. No. This is them telling you what they want to do. Listen to them instead of thinking about it like it's a negative thing. So that's the first part, is realizing that your job, the objective of prospecting, okay, is not to sell a property, get a listing, set an appointment, etc. Your job is to get your prospect to just open up to you, to tell you what they want to do, whether it be today, next month, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Like, tell me your real estate plans so that I can help you accomplish those goals. That's all I need. I don't care when, right? I just need to know what you want to do. If you already have an agent that you're going to work with, and okay, this is what you're going to do. I want to go deep with why, and I want to put together a plan so we can make this happen for you in a very seamless way. So that's the first thing, is like, we've been programmed so horribly, right? New agents come to the business and they listen to their broker and coaches and YouTube and all this stuff, and they feel like they have to combat the prospects, right? Get them to do something different than what they want to do. You don't want to sell? Well, what if we do this? Would you sell then? Or, handle objections and all this garbage that used to work in the 80s, mind you. But we're in a new world, right? And so they come in and when they're badly programmed into thinking, number one, scarcity, like there aren't enough deals to go around. Number two, that we have to high pressure sellers. It's like the mainstream scripts are like, hey, Mr. Seller, you don't know me, I don't know you, but will you sell your house so I can make some money?
Yeah.
And instead of that, it's like, hey, listen, I'm not calling to sell your house, but I see you got a 3-bedroom. Do you need a 4-bedroom? Because I got a really nice one right down the road. I'd love to show you. And so if we uninstall these bad beliefs and reinstall the truth, we can really step it up a notch when it comes to all this. There's 5 stages to sales calls. The first stage is you're scared to death. You're not going to call. The second stage is you make a couple calls and you realize you're not going to die. And then the third stage is you realize you're not going to die. This may be something. Okay, let me learn what to say. And then the biggest jump. So people get there, they learn what to say, and then it doesn't work. They'll try it for months and it doesn't work, and they think this doesn't work. But in reality, it's just that they haven't moved to the next step, which is not only what to say, but the next step is learning how to say it.
Which is the key.
And that's the biggest jump right there, because agents stop at the third step and they're like, I'm saying what I need to say, but it's just not quite working. This doesn't work. Let me go do Zillow leads, right? And they just start backtracking. And then the last step is mastery, where you actually are reading people on the phone. Like, dude, when I get on a call, the first 5-10 seconds, I know exactly how this whole call is going to go. I know exactly where we're going to end up because I've done it so many times. I know exactly. I can read the person exactly how this is going to go. So it's repetition, but it's also being very aware of the reality of the situation, that what we think in terms of rejection, objections, scarcity, strategy, etc., is just not true. And so that's a big reason why I do what I do, to try to spread these methodologies, try to get them to be the new mainstream, so that agents can actually get out here and relax a little bit and be themselves, instead of trying to. I'll end with this. There's a big gap between who agents are, because agents will come in and they're like honest, hardworking, dependable. They're the greatest people on earth. But the way they communicate based on the way they were trained doesn't line up with who they are. And so if you can line up who you actually are with how you're communicating, and you can articulate actually who you are and show them who you are through your words, through your communication, instead of trying to be something that some training course said you've got to be to make a deal, then you could see a lot more success in the industry. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I think that clients, buyers, and sellers can smell bullshit, right? And I think people want authenticity. I just put myself in a client situation. If I'm buying or selling a house, I want to make sure that person that is advising me is being genuine, right? Not just selling me. And you can see it, you can feel it, right? There's an energy to it. So I love the term being, authentic to yourself. You don't have to be someone else to be successful. Everyone has their own version of themselves, and everyone, if they tap into that, can be extremely successful for different reasons, right? Because of who they are. They don't have to do what everyone else is doing or what someone else is doing. What someone else is doing for them is probably true to themselves and it works, right? But it might not be true to that individual. And I love the authenticity part. And I think you combine that with hard work and being ethical and never giving up and staying on course. At the end of the day, we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're selling houses. That's what we're doing. But everyone has their own authentic way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I love everything you've said, Ricky. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. It's very, very powerful stuff you're sharing with agents.
Yeah, I tell everybody, I have what I feel like is the greatest hack when it comes to lead gen, business growth, development, etc., which is, calling property owners, creating these genuine relationships for life through not trying to get them to do something, but yet offer them something. But then also through the weekly email, right, where you can stack these relationships year over year over year and actually grow and see your income rise every single year. So that's the way that I see it. And what I tell them is like the thousands of conversations between you and your goal that have to happen. I don't care how you have them. That's the thing. Like, I'm not pushing cold call on somebody. I'm not saying don't do Zillow. I'm not saying don't do YouTube at all. I know people that you can name the weirdest lead gen activities. You could come up with the weirdest. And I promise you, I probably know people who are making 7-figure off of that weird, off the wall, like every single thing works. So I don't try to push, you should do this or you shouldn't do that. I teach principles, right? I don't care how you do this. You got to figure out how you're going to do this. Here's how I would do it. There's a million different ways to do it. Figure out what path you want to take, the best aligns with who you are, and go crush it. Right. So what my program and what I do and what I teach is very universal, with pretty much any type of real estate, and it really gets into, really universal to other industries and stuff. But I don't push a certain type of lead gen or certain strategy.
It's how you do it. It's being authentic to who you are. It's like I see these ridiculous scripts. I'm sorry. You see a script. The 10 people lined up can't read the same script the same way and expect the same result. Like, it has to be tweaked to who you are. It has to feel real to who you are. And the people making 7 figures on YouTube, it's probably real to who they are. Like, that's why they're successful in it. It doesn't mean if I go and do YouTube tomorrow, I'm going to make 7 figures. So in this business, you have to be genuine and you have to be real to who you are if you want to succeed. And we always talk about this as well, Ricky. It's like when you go out and you door knock, or you sit an open house, or you cold call, it's like you have to be a little creative and outside of the box in your method of thinking if you want to separate yourself from everybody else. Otherwise, the same person door knocking, you're the same person cold calling, and they've heard it all before, and you're probably going to get the same result, which is click and no. So if you switch it up and you get real and you're very authentic to who you are and you're different, you'll probably get a much better result. But I do want to move and shift gears a little here because obviously we want to be respectful of your time. I want to move to the NAR settlement that we just saw, which is huge real estate news. I'm sure a lot of newer agents are very scared. Should I be out looking for another job? Is this the right industry for me? And it's a crazy ruling. At least that's our opinion. We'd like to know what your take is on the settlement, and do you think it's going to affect real estate professionals moving forward in the industry?
Yeah. No, it since August 17th, I believe, was the day that everything kind of came into play. If you look at sales, nothing's changed.
That's right.
Nothing. Like, this was a big, much ado about nothing. So some people could get rich. And it was really a catch-22, in my opinion, because the way that the business model before August 17th, in my opinion, was best for consumers, because there was automatic representation for every buyer, basically. And that includes the seller when they turn around and buy. Okay. So they're crying about paying the buyer agent commission on the front end, but then they don't have to pay it on the back end. So it's like they do benefit.
It's a wash.
Yeah, it's a wash. And it was so funny, the plaintiffs on the stand. There was a lady, she said that she bought 5 or 6 homes and she sold 3 or something. And it was like, you won. Like, you got 6 representations figured in, and you paid, 3 extra when you got 6. But she was like, I'm doing this for my kids. If I can do anything to help them, they're coming into the buying years. And I was like, do you not realize that what you're trying to accomplish is to get your first time home buyer son to have to pay their own commission, which at the end of the day, see, the market's the market. And what we're seeing is that sellers are still continuing to pay it. We maybe have to put it in the offer, or offer it as concessions or whatever, like they tell whatever rules we got to abide by, but the market's the market. And what's interesting and fascinating is that I'm seeing buyer agents get paid more on a lot of these deals where they would have got 2.5. Like, the seller's literally offering 2.5, but they put 3 in the deal and the seller accepts it. Like, they literally just got another 0.5% on the deal. So we'll see, like, long-term how this thing plays out, like over the next 12 months, 24 months, etc. But if right now is any indication of how this thing's going to go, there's really not going to be much different. The catch-22 is that the last model was best for consumers. However, I believe that there was a technicality in there that did break some antitrust laws, and that's what's confusing. It's like the technicality in there that actually created this, and the lawyer saw it and was like, oh, here we go. But without any real thought about the consequences that this could be worse for consumers, what it's ended up being is no different. It's just we're disclosing things differently and stuff like that. So
thing's an absolute joke. It's like, it's a complete runaround that has caused nothing but havoc. I'm sure agents are going to have a hard time navigating around it. We have $1 billion in signed listings. Not one seller has objected to paying a buyer's agent.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have listings right now where, like you just said, we have a less of a commission on the list side because I would never want to decentivize the outside broker to bring a buyer. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be interesting as it evolves, as you said.
Now you know what's interesting is this clear cooperation situation. Where you have to put a listing that's publicly advertised in MLS within 24 hours. Now that actually I think could be somewhat of a game changer, depending on which way that goes. So I'm really curious and interested to see what direction that goes in, because I think that actually could create, like now it's basically the same business model. We may have to explain things to buyers a little more and sellers a little more, a little extra paperwork, but it's in essence the same thing, just explaining and paperwork, right? But the clear cooperation, you do something different there, and you make it to where some of these companies can literally advertise public listings without putting them on MLS, and they're nowhere else but that brokerage's platform. Now you're opening up a whole can of worms that in my opinion could be incredibly negative for consumers. I would hate to see it. And it's another catch-22, I believe, because to make the seller put it on MLS possibly does break some kind of law or rule. However, it's best for consumers, because if I have a buyer, they're renting, they're about to get kicked out, whatever, they've got to buy something. Well, they can't see every single home for sale in one spot. We got to go to 15 different websites and call a bunch of people. And they could actually miss out on a house that was the best for them in their situation.
You actually pro, even though you appreciate that some antitrust laws broken in the process.
I am. Yeah, I am. I think that it very well could possibly. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Let me
ask you a question. I know we're short on time, so I just want to ask one quick question. If I'm a seller and I just, for security reasons, want to sell my property off market and I don't want it on market, but I want my agent to e-blast it out and, do certain things with one photo, which they're not allowed to do anymore. I mean, basically, I want my agent to sell my property, but I don't want to go on the market for privacy reasons. What do you think of that?
I think that, and there are, very rare instances of that. And I'm hearing more and more about that. Agents are reaching out saying, well, I get it all the time. People don't need to put stuff on MLS and stuff like that. Here's how I feel about that. We're going to have some things, like, I don't think you're ever going to make everybody happy, number one, but
true.
In those situations, it's like, you don't want it to be public, Mr. Seller. Like, you don't want people to know about it, but you want me to e-blast. Like, dude, everybody's on my email. Like, when I e-blast it, everybody's going to know about it. So if you don't want the public to know about it, I can't e-blast it. If you want me to call maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of clients I think might be interested, now I can legally do that. Right. Yeah. With it being the way it is, I can do that. Now, when I start publicly advertising and I have to put it on MLS. So it's like if this person doesn't want it publicly advertised, me blasting it makes it public. Like, if they want to maintain privacy, you ain't gonna maintain privacy on my email blast. You're probably gonna get calls from people, right? So so I think it kind of contradicts itself. Like, you don't want it public, but you want me to blast it. It doesn't make sense. So I think that's the answer to that. Like, if they want to sell it off market, well, let's leave it off market and sell it off market, right? I'll make a couple calls. I'll do what I can do. When you get ready to actually sell it, I'm going to have to, if we can't sell it that way, we're going to have to put out publicly. Why not go all the way? Just the email blast, we're going to expose it to more people this way. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Actually, that's a great counter.
But this is such a bigger conversation, because I could even counter that. I just think a seller.
Sure.
We don't have time to do that, but like, it should be a seller's choice, in my opinion. You either want to be
absolutely. No, I agree. That's why I've started out and said it's like, you can't force someone to do that.
Correct.
Right? You can't force it. So I do see both sides. When I weigh the pros and cons, I do see negatives and positives on both sides of it. But I believe that the pro clear cooperation, in my opinion, I'm leaning that. I'm not all the way there, and I could lean the other way tomorrow. But right now, the way it stands, I'm leaning towards pro clear cooperation.
My thoughts are, if you want to sell your home off market, you should be allowed to. And if you want to go on the market, there's so many different strategies of how to sell a home, right? Some are, hey, I'd rather sell it off market. Let's see who's out there. Let's test the market. Let's test the price. And then there's, let's keep it under the radar,
I think they should create a hybrid, right? I think there should be a meet in the middle type thing where maybe they give you a week off market, or even 2 weeks, or even 30 days, and then you got to put it on MLF, right?
Like a grace period, basically. Yeah,
a bigger grace period than 24 hours, I think, would solve a lot of these problems, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree. So let me ask you another quick question, and that's more looking ahead of like 2025. You're all over America with how you do it. We're quite centric in our market. Before we know it, it'll be Thanksgiving, Christmas in 2025. What do you think we should be preparing for as agents coming into the new year?
I think we're going to increase transactions to about 4.5 million deals. This is the worst year. I mean, it's worse than 2008 in number of transactions. And I think a lot of agents are discouraged right now, and they're judging their entire career. Like, they're judging their entire next 10 years based on their conversion rates right now, when most consumers are waiting to see what happens in the election. This is one of the craziest elections that we've ever seen.
Yes.
And there's a lot of controversy around it. So people are kind of just sitting there. So you can't, look at your conversion rates right now and build your business model around that. You got to realize this is super temporary. So you got to get in the mindset that next year is going to be the rebound year. And that right now you've got to create as many relationships as possible so that when the market breaks out, all those people call you and your business will literally multiply. And I think I don't think it's going to be like go back to 5 mil next year. I think that'll be the year after. I think it'll take a couple years, because the fact is that prices are still extremely high. Even though they've kind of flattened out a little, they're still really high. And interest rates, if they get down to 5.5, well, that's still a lot higher than 2 and 3 that it was a couple years ago. So I think we still have some problems when it comes to just like a breakout 5-6 million transaction year, but it is going to be better than this year. And you should be all in right now, just building your brand, calls, weekly email, text messages, social media. You should be just shoving in all of your chips, because like me, I went all in 2008. Literally, that going all in 2008 is what got me to the top, and realizing how this thing was going to play out. So right now is 2008 for agents, and they need to put all their chips in the middle right this second.
I love it. We're on the runway, baby. We're about to take off. So
That's it.
Be ready, and let's go for a big.
That's it. Pack a lunch. We are fixing to do this.
I'm excited, and I'm ready for it, and I know our whole team's ready for it. So we're excited. Ricky, where can people find you to learn more? Get in touch. Give us all the rundown.
Go to Instagram. Go to Instagram and YouTube at Ricky Carruth. Just get in there and DM me. I answer all my DMs myself and post stuff every day. So it's all agent centric, and I'm here to help you.
I love it, man.
Beautiful, Ricky.
Yeah, that was a really great conversation. I don't think we asked you 70% of the questions we wanted to, because the conversation was just flowing, but you're a clear wealth of information. I love that you keep it real and authentic. And I know a lot of people, the 1.6 million of us around America, could learn a ton from you, Ricky. So thank you.
And if you guys do these in person, next time we come to LA, let's get together and shoot an episode in person. Whole nother level.
Amen to that. All right, guys, that wraps up this episode, which has been incredible, of Rise Above the Ranks. Thank you for everybody for tuning in or watching on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more from Rise Above the Ranks and Estate Media, and leave us a comment with who you would like to see on future episodes. Ricky, thank you so much again for joining. We have really had fun today, and we look forward to having you in the studio when you're not in Alabama, by the beach here in LA. Thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky.
Appreciate it.